Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Peacemaker. It was called Ignorance is Chris, which of course is a take on the saying ignorance is bliss, which, means when you don't know what's actually going on, it can lead to you being happier than you would otherwise be if you knew what was going on, which is totally apropos. And at the same time, it's a double entendre because it points out the fact that ignorance is pretty much personified in Chris himself, that he is basically ignorance itself. And this is painfully depicted by the end of the episode. So it was a really great title, actually. This episode, by the way, was written and directed by James Gunn himself, one of 3 that he did this season. Anyway, as the episode starts, Chris is with the alternate universe's Harcourt, the alternate universe version of his father and brother, at a restaurant following their triumph over the kaiju. Chris's father expresses happiness that he's back together with Harcourt as a couple of kids in the restaurant come up and ask for a selfie with Chris's father. Harcourt takes the picture, which ends up featuring everyone, and the faces in the picture begin to melt, leading into the opening credits sequence. Next, back in the regular dimension, Adebayo, Economos, and original Harcourt park outside of Adrian's house, aka Vigilante, where he lives with his mother. As it turns out, his mother is a pretty cool lady, but he keeps ordering his mother to steer clear of him and his friends as they're going into his secret room. And we find out that at some point he told her that Harcourt was his girlfriend and insisted that he broke up with her because she was kind of, well, for him, too promiscuous, which is very funny. Anyway, in his secret room, we see a huge amount of various drugs and a ton of drug money, which Vigilante apparently has just taken possession of over the course of time as he's defeated various criminals and I guess attended various drug busts and whatnot, or himself perpetrated a bunch of drug busts over the years. He explains that he doesn't turn this stuff over to the cops because what if the cops are corrupt? So he just hoards it. And all the while he's explaining this, the other members of the team are sort of like stuffing as much blood money as they can into their pockets to leave with it while he's kind of not looking. This is very funny. Adebayo then sets up the device to open the portal to the other universe. And since Argus doesn't know that Adrian is Vigilante, they won't look for the portal there in his house. Adebayo urges everyone to step away from the portal as it starts to open, but it doesn't help because when it opens and that initial sort of explosion of energy happens, it causes all the bags of cocaine to explode and cocaine goes all over everyone and money blows around everywhere as well. So it was just crazy. But once they're in the alternate dimension sort of bridging area, they encounter the Kaphotic alien as he gets rid of, I guess, a rat, and Adebayo, says hello to him, but of course he responds as usual, which is not to respond. Adrian, for his part, fixates on the idea of meeting his other self in the parallel universe. Meanwhile, at Argus, Flurry, the agent with bird blindness, informs General Flag that not only is Peacemaker missing, but also Harcourt, Economos, and Judo Master are missing. But Flag urges him not to do anything. Don't put out any APBs or anything like that. As for himself, Flag plans to visit a certain prisoner at Belle Rêve, which, by the way, they keep pronouncing as Belle Rêve, and that's not how you pronounce it. It's a French term. It means beautiful dream. The correct pronunciation is Belle Rêve. Get that right. Okay. A little later, the heroes from our universe find the door to the particular parallel world where Chris went. And they walk into his father's lavish house. And when they realize no one's home, they wonder if they should wait for Chris to come back. All of a sudden, Keith shows up, that of course being Chris's brother, and Harcourt slams the door on Economos, hitting him, as Adebayo and Adrian leap into the closet. Harcourt makes up an excuse that she had just been in the loo depositing a very unpleasant movement. She claims that she's there to pick up a snow globe that Chris wants brought to his office or his desk at Argus. And this snow globe was a gift from Chris's mother on her deathbed in this universe. And Keith says, okay, well, I'm on my way there. I'll drive you. And even though Adebayo sort of mouths to her not to go, she ends up going with him because what choice did she have? Once they're gone, Economos starts dry heaving because he's being sickened, I guess, by being in this strange universe where things are different. And I guess probably because he's a little freaked out that they're going to get caught. Adrian, of course, still wants desperately to find his doppelganger. So, against Adebayo's suggestion, he leaves to find himself. Economos and Adebayo, meanwhile, stay at the mansion to wait for Chris. At the same time, Chris lies in bed with that universe's Harcourt, and they're all smiles post coitus, it looks like. On the way over to Argus, Harcourt and Keith have an interesting conversation, and we find out that there are a bunch of things in that universe that are different, which we've been finding out all along. But in this case, what we find out primarily is that Mick Jagger is the head of the Beatles in that universe. But as all of this is going on, Harcourt is looking out the window at passersby and just the general area, and she realizes that something is not quite right. As all this is happening, Chris heads to Argus on his peace cycle by himself, and that universe's version of Harcourt says she'll meet him there. Adrian, meanwhile, clad in his vigilante costume, spots his alternate version's house in this world and heads towards it. When Keith and original universe Harcourt arrive at Argus, a drug-sniffing dog detects an illegal substance on Harcourt. Adrian sneaks into the house where his alternate version lives, and he starts noticing different versions of things there, including a Cheerios box where Cheerios is spelled with an H, and different versions of his parents sitting on the couch. And he notes that in this universe, his dad must not be gay because he didn't leave his mother. But he finally makes it to the secret room where he meets his alternate version. And what do you know? They just have a good old time yucking it up about how each other exists. It's kind of weird. Adebayo and Economos at this time find Eagly in the kitchen at the mansion, going to town on all the food in the fridge. At the same time, General Flagg arrives at Belle Rêve and chats with none other than Lex Luthor, who's imprisoned there. And Lex is not happy about being in prison with a bunch of metahumans, as it turns out. Flagg, in that case, offers to transfer him to a non-metahuman prison if he lends a hand to the general, who really wants to track down Chris's portal device to prevent a dimensional rift like the one that formed in Metropolis in Superman from forming again. Lex, for his part, would rather have his freedom, but at least being in a non-metahuman prison would be better off for him for the next 285 years or whatever that he's sentenced there. So he tells the general that he has a scanner that can pinpoint the location of the portal. In the alternate universe, Chris is reunited with original universe Harcourt at Argus while they're testing her blood for drugs. He asks her point blank why she's there in that universe, and she explains that she and the others are there to rescue him and bring him home, saying that he doesn't belong there. The conversation then pivots to their feelings, and Chris admits that he's in love with her, which of course she knows. And emotions run very high during this scene, during this conversation. Harcourt, in fact, gets upset and yells at him that she's a total mess and doesn't understand why Chris loves her. He says he doesn't care. He insists that the night on the boat meant something. And then the next moment, Harcourt is told that she can go because there were no drugs in her system. After meeting with Lex, the general exits the visiting area and tells Bordeaux, Agent Bordeaux, that he's going to end up transferring Lex to Van Kull, which is another prison in the DC Comics universe. Meanwhile, the two Adrians geek out over how much they have in common and realize that they're basically doing that Spider-Man meme where they point at each other, I'm the real one. No, you're the real one. No, he's the real one, which is interesting because it means that the Marvel universe is now a thing that exists in the DC universe, which is interesting. Anyway, they both soon realize that they are at odds over Peacemaker, with our dimension's Peacemaker, of course, being someone that Adrian is friends with, whereas in this alternate universe, Adrian is a member of the Sons of Liberty, who are against everything that Peacemaker and his family stand for, which doesn't really make sense with original universe Adrian. Later, Adebayo decides to go on a walk, leaving Economos alone in the mansion. While exploring the neighborhood, she notices something strange. A white woman drives by, looking at her with a mixture of terror and hate. Back at the mansion, Economos has to duck behind the kitchen island as Chris's father gets home. While at the same time, the alternate universe Harcourt enters Argus, confusing the officer at the front desk. Speaking of confused, Chris's brother is seemingly quite confused when he spots Adebayo in the street. He pulls over and jumps out of his truck, along with other white people who emerge from their houses and start pointing and yelling in the direction of Adebayo. Chris and original universe Harcourt walk through Argus, and she informs him that she's noticed that there aren't any people of color in this dimension and doesn't understand why that's not weird to him. And he doesn't seem to know what she's talking about. But he then sees a little flag on a desk, and when he picks it up and unfurls it, he realizes that something's not right, to say the least, because there's a swastika where the field of stars should be. Back on the street, Keith and the other racists begin chasing Adebayo down the street, intent on capturing her. And at the mansion, Chris's dad catches Economos in the house and stabs him right through the hand, demanding to know who he is. And Economos, in a panic, pretty much blurts out everything that's going on, that they're there to get Chris back because he's not that universe's Chris. He's their universe's Chris, who killed the alternate universe's Chris. And this, of course, is visibly disturbing to alternate Chris's dad. As the episode ends, we see Adebayo running down the street full force away from this mad crowd that's trying to catch her as the screen cuts to black. So this episode was crazy, and it's probably the most impactful episode of the season. The episodes up to now have been, good for one reason or another. Interesting things have been discovered, but they all kind of felt like episodes that were spinning their wheels. There wasn't really much happening. The plot was kind of moving slowly in ways that weren't terribly remarkable, but some remarkable stuff happened in this episode. As we knew it would when the fecal material finally hit the rotisserie device, right? We knew that this big explosion of holy crap was going to happen when the worlds literally collided. And this was the episode for that. I think the best part of it, inarguably, was the scene between Chris and Harcourt at Argus, where she's literally on the verge of tears because she does feel something for him. She does care for him. And she kind of explains that to him, but only in so much as she says, how could you think that when I tackled you, I was betraying you, I was protecting you? How could you think I would ever betray you? But she falls short of returning his expression of romantic love, though it really seems like she wants to. Instead, she kind of makes it plain that even if she were to admit to it, she can't commit to being with him because she's messed up. She's got her own issues to work out. And it's kind of like what I was saying last week, where, she's not able to commit to this because she's afraid of either being hurt or hurting someone else or what have you, because she's not in a psycho-emotional state where she can be in a relationship. But it was a well-done scene, a very moving scene, and I really enjoyed that. I think the second best part of the episode was the whole part with Adrian finding his doppelganger. Just very funny. And I think good for the character until the part where they realize they're at odds over Peacemaker, because he hasn't had any positive things happen in this whole season. And so finally this one thing happened that he was getting enjoyment out of. So I thought that was cool. Overall, I think we're starting to see that all of the characters are self-involved. I mean, primarily it's, Chris in the forefront that's sort of behaving selfishly and who's in this dimension because it has things that he wants where his own universe doesn't. But really, it's all of them. They all have their own self-motivations. I mean, they seem to be committed to each other as a group, but they're also at the same time very individualistic and very sort of self-absorbed in their own, issues. Mostly to the extent that, they're having trouble facing reality. Chris is having trouble facing the fact that his father and brother are dead and that his father was an asshole and that, in the regular universe, Harcourt isn't emotionally available for him. And, Harcourt is having trouble accepting the fact that she's no longer going to be able to work as a government agent. And, for the rest of the team, they kind of sort of have their own agendas. Even though they're kind of working as a team, they kind of aren't, Adrian goes off to find his own double, and Adebayo leaves the mansion to go for a walk, which, by the way, I thought was weird. Like, why would you do that? I mean, in this case, it was just to further the plot, I guess, but it seemed kind of weird. But anyway, so there are different themes going on, and they're finally coming into focus before we get to the last two episodes of the season, and that's cool. And by the way, even the music reflects these things, the various songs in the soundtrack. If you listen to the lyrics and what the songs are about, they reflect these different themes, which is really cool. Then the question I have at this point is well, I have a lot of questions, but you know, one question that I think they could have avoided leaving us with in this episode that they left us with is where is Judo Master? He crossed over into the alternate universe, but we don't know where he is. Did he realize right away that there are no people of color in that universe? And is he kind of hiding out because he's a person of color? What's happening there? Anyway, I thought this was a really good episode. I'm really looking forward to the last two episodes of the season. I really wanted there to be another episode last night. It's killing me to see what's going to happen next. There are rumblings in fan circles that say we're going to get more cameos. And I've heard it suggested, everyone from Harley Quinn all the way up to Superman. I don't think we're going to see either of those two people. I think Superman's too big for them to bring him in. And I think they're not ready to, recast Harley Quinn just yet. And I don't think they're keeping Margot Robbie, unfortunately. So I don't think that's going to happen. It'll probably be members of the Justice Gang again. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.